So, seen any good moves lately? Welcome back to episode number 10 of Seen any Good Moves Lately. I am your host, Joey Olberding, and today I am joined by a wonderful guest, RHAP patron, and a wonderful individual. Loves drinking out of mason jars. Bryce. How are you doing, Bryce?
Oh, cheers in my mason jar full of water. Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Joey. Excited to talk about this episode, whether or not you liked it or not. So,
Yeah, that's a pretty real statement to start
yep,
things off.
for sure.
Look, we've definitely hit sort of I guess a rough patch of episodes. A lot of people would say in terms
Yep.
of like where we are in Survivor. We had yet another sort of predictable boat with Star. In this, or I wouldn't even say predictable. But I would say not exciting boot.
Y- yes.
But yeah, but I think it's a somewhat interesting episode to talk about regardless. But Bryce, I gotta ask, what are your thoughts on the season in general?
Wow. What are my thoughts on season 48? I will say, and I've listened to some of your podcasts with your guests. They have some great opinions. But I've been actually kind of surprised that everyone's been liking the season. I think it was really good until it wasn't. That is kind of what I've come up with. Like even in the pre-merge though, like with some of you've talked about it many a times, but just like the way that like people lose their votes without getting the chance to even decide if they want to. Like I for one don't mind a journey. I don't. But whenever you make someone go on a journey, especially for the ones that like the other tribes pick you to go on the journey,
Yeah,
I don't particularly love that like if I'm just chosen and then I have to go play this game of rolling a dice. Like I just didn't but regardless, the pre-merge was still so fun with so many fun blindsides with Kevin and even though Justin's very unfortunate boot, like it was still like I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, what's happening? But since the mergatory, it's just been kind of like nothing burger for me. Like I really have enjoyed the new era for the most part. Obviously not my top tier. I don't think any of my top 10 seasons include the new era, but I've overall enjoyed them. And I don't know, this season, this past few episodes, like I was like, okay, the David boot. All right, let's
yeah,
go. Let's go. Here we go. Here's the ball moving. We started it. And then we just went right back to old lines. And so I'm a little disappointed so far. But there's still a chance. There's still a chance we could
yeah.
turn it back around.
No, sorry. It's interesting because I agree with your general point of like, yeah, the season's kind of taken a sour turn, but I actually sort of
Mhm.
disagree with you. I've sort of been fluctuating as a viewer between how much I like it and don't like it. Like, I really like the first few episodes. And
Yep.
then the journey stuff happened with Justin and Bianca and Thomas to an extent. Even though that episode was a very exciting tribal council, and I was a little like, ooh, I don't really like how they did that, and then that soured me on the season. And then it came back to like the late pre-merge and the early merge, and I
Right.
was like, you know what? These episodes aren't necessarily like the most exciting moves, but I feel like they're really setting up for something interesting with Cedric going home and Say going home, and a lot of these like sort of goat esque people going home. It's like, okay, the people who are staying are gonna create a really interesting end game. And I had thought that deep within my heart up until this past episode,
Yeah.
where now I am very much questioning how exciting the season is going to be going forward. But yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it definitely like there was the late pre-merge was probably my favorite. Like the tribe swap, like bring more tribe swaps. I love a tribe swap. If
yeah,
you get tribe swap screwed, that sucks. But I still think they're just fun. So,
yeah,
but I don't know. It's just for me has been a nothing burger. And I will say I watch it with some of my friends who are much more casual viewers. They don't listen to the podcast. They don't do
sure.
a lot of the stuff that I do because I've been watching the show for so long. And part of me thinks I'm going to lose them after because they were like, one of my friends was like, Bryce, I'm getting bored. And I'm like, me too.
Yeah.
So
No, it's interesting because to me, as somebody who, I don't mind predictable boots. I don't mind predictable
sure,
episodes.
sure.
Like they are bound to happen. Some
Yeah,
of the best
absolutely.
seasons in Survivor history have boring boats. Maybe many boring boats even. But the narrative at the end of the day is still strong enough to circumvent that and to really create something strong. But the narrative of the season right now is sort of the problem. I feel like
I
there
agree.
is an angle where you could have it be very interesting of like,
Yep.
these are people who are going strong to the end. By doing so, they're cutting allies and they're cutting potential jury members and they're cutting their own chances of winning by,
Yep.
staying with a strong alliance. But we're not really getting that.
Right.
There's like the hints of it, Chrissy at Tribal Council complaining about that, Star saying, she has no chance or whatever. But for the most part, we're kind of just pretending like there's an angle for, the people on the bottom to get out of it. When I think the season narrative would be far more interesting if we just said what it is, which is that these people are going home and these people are controlling it, but their actions have consequences.
Right. I definitely do see that. And I have some thoughts about the end game as
Yeah.
we're heading into that, because I do think that some of these, like, I hated the move of getting David out last week for Joe and Eva. I think that was a big blunder for them, because I just think, but I agree with you in the sense that, like, it is just like, there is just going to be like Randy from Heroes versus Villains. Like, that boot, is it the most exciting episode of Survivor ever? No. But,
Yeah.
Every season's going to have that. But, like, especially the charity to Cedric, to Chrissy, even though she was going out swinging, there just really hasn't been a lot of unpredictability, which I do think helps make us good Survivor season. Not to say that this one's terrible, but, like,
Yeah.
it's not looking great for me personally. So
Yeah, I mean, look, using the heroes versus villains comparison, I mean, we're in the late merge of this season at this point. We have like what,
yeah,
2 episodes left before the
I think
finale or
3.
something like
Oh,
that.
2, yeah, 2 and then finale. Yeah,
Um, I think about heroes versus villains like it was essentially a pagong. Like essentially they
it
got
was.
rid of
Yeah,
all the heroes. I mean, there was the Danielle boot in the middle of it, but like at the end when it was between like Colby and Rupert for who would go first for the
right.
heroes, the
Sure.
intrigue wasn't necessarily who's going to go home in the season. The narrative was so strong because it was so focused on
Right.
Russell being, saying, "You're the hero, Russ," or "You're the hero, Rupert," whatever or
Great
whatever.
impression. Great impression.
But that's what made it so good. And part of that I think speaks to, in my opinion, like I don't mind the new era. I think some of the best seasons of Survivor have been the new era. I love 45.
45, so good.
But I also think that like a problem with sort of the stagnancy of a lot of the things we say is that it is very reliant on characters, reliant on the big
Yes.
personalities. And
Mhm.
at this point in the season, like the big personalities are gone for the most part. Like Say's gone, David's gone, Thomas is gone. At this point, like you have maybe Mitch, and that's about it. Star's gone, so
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I have noticed that, where, like, a lot of the people that, like, give us a lot of intrigue in those ways, even those, like, we did not see a lot of Star this season, which I
yeah,
think
no.
is just such a blunder on editing. Like, I mean, I'm sure she maybe wasn't given the most strategic perspectives of things, it seems, just based off her tribal council answers, but from this last episode. But, like, I don't know, just like some things, and it's tough whenever you're a pre-merge immune the whole time. Like, it's hard to, like, get your full story, because it's like, I mean, we saw it with Erica in 41. Like,
Yeah,
if you don't go to tribal, there's not much. All right, she's winning challenges, she's not going to tribal. And then, like, it was just one of those things where, like, I don't know if you remember this, but whenever, I don't remember what, I think it may have been the charity boot, but, like, Star goes up and she, like, throws the pin, and I'm like, it was that
oh yeah,
moment
yeah,
where I
yeah,
was like, oh, like, we just are missing so much Star, and it's so unfortunate. But I agree with you that there's a lot, like, the people that are left, like, even Camilla, who I enjoy as a player, even this episode, I feel like she was just, like, not having it, and was, like, just like, I don't
yeah.
know what it was, but, like, I don't know, we just, like, hearing the say hum hum about all of these, characters at the end, and there's just not, like, there's people I
Yeah.
like, but there's nobody that's like, oh, I really want this person to win necessarily.
It's interesting because on the surface, like things seem pretty strategic, pretty normal. But I feel like if you
Sure.
look at people's body language and what they're actually saying, like there's a lot of tension under the
Yeah.
surface in the game, but the editors just aren't showing us that. And
Right.
for a while I was thinking like, okay, this is gonna be like we're gonna see some sort of like explosion and we're gonna get
Sure.
all of it and it's gonna be great television. But at this point, it's like, well, you had the Chrissy boot, who was maybe should have been the catalyst towards that explosion. You had the
Yeah.
David boot where he was super mad. You think that would have changed something. And then we kind of just went back to normalcy with this last episode where it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, no, we're strategic. And, I guess we should get rid of Star because that's the best move for us. When, like, clearly Mary is unhappy with what's happening. I don't think Mitch is happy with what's happening. Even Star was like, if people can't trust each other, then how are we going to do anything?
Right.
But we didn't really focus on that. We still
No.
focused a lot on, I don't know, it's 90-minute episodes, and I still feel like they're kind of avoiding the interesting parts of the season, at least to me.
Yeah, and I think Alec said this last week on your podcast. We've gotten a lot of camp life stuff, or maybe it was CJ. I don't remember. One of them said it. Like
Yeah.
a lot of camp life stuff, which is fun, but like that stuff is like kind of getting tossed to the side, even with all this stuff too. Like I feel like there's been a few memorable, like this episode with Mitch and the mailman and the dog thing, or like him snoring. Like those things are memorable, but like even like there's just so much I feel like we're missing in this, or
Yeah.
like whenever they randomly were like, oh, but like what if Mary's gonna more likely to win challenges, which I was like, where did that come from? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like we are missing a lot this season, I think, editing wise. I don't know what we're missing, but I feel like it is something personally.
I have my theories, and it's kind of a tough spot because it's hard to speculate on stuff that you don't know. But part of me
Sure.
thinks that Joe and Eva, they had this big emotional moment, a few episodes ago where they really brought each other together. Huge emotional
Yep.
moment,
Yep.
showing off like what Eva needed in that moment and sort of solidified them as a duo. And I think because of that, the editors probably want to play it like a little bit safe, and they don't want to show off the fact that maybe Mary isn't happy with how Joe, is in the game, or
Sure.
people perceive Eva as being maybe more of a goat than maybe they should, and stuff
Mm,
like that. Because I think about the conversation that happened in this episode between Joe and Mary. Joe goes to
yes.
Mary and is like, "Hey, I'm going to keep it real with you, Mary. We got rid of David because we thought that you were controlling him, that you were the master manipulator." And what we see from Mary is she says, "Thanks for telling me that." And her confessional is, "I don't know why Joe thinks that would necessarily earn him my jury vote." Instead of what I think she's really saying, which is, "Why are you telling me that? I do not respect that," which is what I've seen her say on social media, which I don't like putting the social media stuff into, as
Sure.
you probably
Sure.
see in the
Yeah.
show, but I have not been able to avoid that. So it can't help but
Fair
cloud
enough.
my judgment.
That conversation what blew my mind, because right before this conversation happened, Joe says he's like, I really want to, like, this game means about relationships to me, and then he
Yeah.
just like and so then he responds to that by doing what? Insulting Mary to her face. I was like, this is not, like, I was interested by that editing choice because I was like, man, that is really interesting how, because like he sits down with Mary, I'm like, oh, this is good, like Joe's kind of building,
Yeah.
because like Joe for me is one of my contenders still, to
Same.
win.
Yeah.
But but then like this conversation happened, and I was like, what was that? Like that is like completely ill. And maybe Joe's just like one of those like straightforward people, like he's gonna tell you how it is. But like we haven't really been shown that a lot. And so I think it is interesting that like that was the editing choice that was made. And so that is interesting. And maybe that's like a subtle thing, which because I have another conversation that happened at the beginning of the episode
Mhm.
when Eva is like, I'm gonna go talk to Mary. And again, it's like the same thing. Like it's like you're not like, I think Eva was like trying to like do some damage control, but then didn't help. That like she made more damage. She's like, because like then she's like, I'm not gonna play the idol on you. Like you're at the bottom. Like she just, and I'm like, I don't think you're doing what you think you're doing when you're doing these things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it absolutely makes sense. It does create an interesting question for, like, going to someone, say that you're on the bottom, Bryce, and I'm going to you and I'm saying to you, like, "Hey, you're on the bottom. I don't plan on working with you." Like, theoretically, I can understand why you would want to do that if you're in the power position, because you're like, well, I don't want to
Sure.
lead somebody on and,
Sure. Absolutely.
blindside them for no reason when I was never going to work with them. But at the same time, it just comes off like, okay, well, you're not looking at your best option. And if I'm going to be sitting next to Shaheen at the end, and I could have been sitting next to Bryce instead,
Mhm.
I'm just cutting myself off at the knee or whatever. Like only hurting my own game by not being willing to work with players on the bottom. That's what I would think would be the biggest problem with telling somebody that is you're cutting off a potential relationship in the game for
100%.
seemingly no real reason.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and it is. I just keep going back to that confessional with Joe of like, I'm gonna do this because this game's about connection. I'm like, okay, this is not connection. This is like intimidation, or this is like,
Yeah.
it's not what you're. I don't know what he thinks it was gonna be.
I mean, he
but
was talking down to her, like at the
no,
end of the day.
literally, I was like, I was getting a little angry when I was like, Joe, what the like? I don't know. The whole Joe and Eva thing, I was very moved by their whatever episode that was. I don't remember. Very moved by it. It was very powerful. Like my little watch party, we were all like tearing up at least a little bit at the very minimum. But like, because it wasn't just a powerful human moment. But I don't know. It's part of their gameplay too that I just maybe don't like, because I think for both of them, I've dropped off on them a lot. Like I don't think their attitude towards each other reflects how they're treating everybody else or how they're playing with everybody else too, to some extent.
It's interesting because Joe was my winner pick episode 1 in large part because his name is Joe, like me. But beyond that, Joe has really shown that he is a good social player. Everybody is going to him and is talking to him about strategy. Like he is sort of the nucleus of who people want to talk to. And Eva's also, in my opinion, played a good game in the sense that, I mean, she has these advantages. She hasn't been targeted once. Like theoretically, they should be in even better positions than it feels like they are right now. But like, if you had to ask me right now, who's winning, Joey, I'd probably say, I don't know, maybe Shaheen. Like I don't think it's Joe or Eva anymore. Even though I think if Eva gets to the end, she probably has the strongest case. I don't think the jury's going to respect her.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at the jury this episode, they all look so mad. Like I could not tell you the last time. I don't normally try to read into the jury and like how they're reacting. I mean, especially David, but like this episode, I was just like, they all just seem like they're fed up with this like strong people gang up that's happening in some extent.
And see, this is what I like about Survivor 48. This is like what I think the strongest part of it is like, it's the most old school season of the new era, in my opinion, which is a positive and a negative. I think the biggest positive of it is that like people are angry. Like I've been saying in the past that like David sort of reminds me of Lex from Survivor. In the sense that he is, this guy who's super like, we need to do what I want to do. And, I want to, bring these people to the end and I want to have this happen. And then as soon as things don't go his way, he is bitter and mad and you can see it.
You can see it.
Which I like. It makes me excited for Final Tribal Council. It makes me want Joe and Eva and maybe somebody else who they have a grudge against. Like, I don't know, maybe Mitch, considering he's not making moves. I think that'd be very interesting. I don't know if we're gonna get there, but
sure.
There's like little kernels that I see that are like, oh man, if the editing explored this just a little bit more, like this season could go from like sort of mid-ish to like sort of not that great in terms of all Survivor seasons. I mean, to like, wow, this is actually like a very underrated, like solid narrative. But,
and maybe we'll come back in a few years and be like, well, 48 was actually not that bad. We might come back with that. But at this moment in time, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of not like ready for this season to be over, but honestly, like, just kind of like, all right, when are we get like, when's it gonna? How much longer are we gonna do before it breaks?
Exactly. Like, I'm ready to hit the fast forward button and see when something happens because something happened with the David vote, but it didn't really feel like anything shifted since once again we just sort of went back to normalcy right afterwards. And the star thing, I mean, it could have been an email. It was nothing.
No,
So I mean, it's fine. I've been talking with CJ and talking with Alec, and they both agreed that like Mitch and Mary like needed to make a move, like if not 2 episodes ago, last episode, and Star needed to do the same thing.
Yep.
And now it's like you have at least two people directly saying to Mary, like, I'm not going to work with you, in Joe and Eva. I just don't see like a great path forward for either of them, for Mitch or Mary. I think Mitch could get dragged along a little longer, but Mary, much like she was at the start of the game, is sort of public enemy number one right now. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. And I don't really understand like how she's gotten in this position. But here she is. She's back at the bottom, and I feel kind of bad for her. But let me tell you, listen, I listened last week. I know you're not the biggest Mary fan, but Mary is such a fun
Oh no, she's
confessionalist to
super fun.
me. She's so fun. Like the beginning of the episode, she calls like, oh, the whole bulky, hulky, what did she say, Herculean. Like it was so funny to me, and I love her even though she's not winning. Like
I
I know she's not winning, and that's fine.
I want to be so clear. Like in terms of the biggest personalities left, Mary is the biggest
Mary is
personality.
the biggest one, yeah,
She is the most entertaining person left on the
for sure.
season. I think Mary is great. I just think that like, no matter what she does, like she's gonna be in a rough spot if she wants to win. But
Yep.
all that but I do want to say this about Mary. Like this is another thing. I feel like we have to be missing something because why is Mary like so far on the bottom? Like twice. She was so far on the bottom
Yes.
in her original tribe, and now she's so far on the bottom in the merge to the point where like both times people are telling her directly, like, "Hey, I'm not working with you, and I am not going to even consider even pretend to work with you." Like
Right.
that's not normal. Like
No.
it's not normal in Survivor history to see that. And I know that like maybe the honor integrity part of it has something to do with it, but
Sure.
I don't know if it has that much to do with it. Like I'm sure Mary is a great person to have around at camp. I just wonder if this is like maybe
Right.
the group think dynamic with everybody being like, well, we have to cut out the people who aren't in our strong group or whatever. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, and I think a part of it was also just like her connection with David, which seemingly came out of nowhere. I remember being like,
Yeah.
"Wait, what? They're friends?" I mean, they were on the same swap tribe, I think, together. And so, but like we didn't see much of them. So
No.
other than them hating Charity, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just think she's always found herself aligning with the wrong people. But it is interesting how she's still like I've kind of written her off as a winner contender since like week 3 maybe, and yet she's still here at the final 7. So,
Yeah.
and I'm glad she's still here. I'm glad we've gotten more of Mary, but man, she just has no shot, does she?
Yeah. And I'm starting to get that way with Mitch too. I mean,
Mhm.
I think this episode, if nothing else, the edit really said that like, hey Mitch, you probably should have made a move,
Yep.
or at least tried to do something. Now, to be fair to Mitch, quite honestly, I do think he did the right thing and not trying to force something. I think going to rocks, that being your best case scenario, or trying to force rocks is kind of not a great idea. I think at this point, what you have to do is you have to say, "Hey, Joe and Eva are a pair. Has anybody noticed this?" And try to force something to happen that way. But yeah,
Yeah, Mitch, I was really frustrated with Mitch because I don't know if going to rocks is the best play for him, but he had such a roller coaster of an episode for me because like he like comes back, he's voted out David, that's great. And
mhm.
then Kyle doesn't take him on the reward. Back on the low, like and I'm like, okay, like Mitch, like and he talks about like need to make a move, needing to do this before it's too late. And then he gets like back on this high of like, okay, I'm making a move, I'm gonna do it. And then it just like comes crashing down after Joe wins immunity. And I think and then like he goes back to the cameras, he's like, you at home are gonna be like, Mitch, you should have made a move. Like, but I can't make a move people can trust. True, but you also can't make a move if you don't have numbers. And I don't think Mitch has the numbers.
Yeah,
And this could have been the last time he has the numbers. Now, granted, I don't think he's completely dead in the water, but I do think his logic behind not necessarily because he was really hung up on Mary and Star running his name down. But like I think you kind of have to let bygones be bygones because he's got to recognize at some point that he is not in that core 6 or core
yeah.
that core 4.
It's a weird spot because if Mitch say goes for this move and tries to vote for, I don't even know who they would have voted for. I think Shahin was the name being thrown out.
Probably, yeah.
If he votes for Shahin and those allies don't all do it and some of them write his name down, then he definitely wouldn't have an in anymore because he would have written Shaheen's name down, and
Sure.
that's that. I also think that like it's really tough. Basically, what I'm saying is Mitch, I think, has no real chance regardless. I think what he needs is he needs everybody else to implode and
Yep.
somehow be sitting at the end next to Mary and next to I don't even know, like
Right.
Joe, maybe
Maybe
Joe at this
Joe.
point, and
Yeah.
just hope that everybody's really bitter at him, which it seems like they might
Seems
be.
like they are.
So
Yeah.
that's his in, that's his chance,
For
but
sure.
I think Mitch also says to himself, probably wisely, that like I need to be on the ends to have the only shot of actually getting to the end. Like if he just stays on the bottom, he's basically just going to have to hope and pray that the strong five that's been sticking together basically the whole time continues to stick
Sure.
together.
Yeah.
And I think that that's possible that they do stick together and they just round out like Shaheen, Joe, and Eva at the end or something like that. I think it's possible.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. It's so hard. Like, I just feel like so many of them are out of contention to win at this point.
Yeah,
But like at the same time, I still don't really know who's the top contender right now. So I think
not me
I think
neither.
half the field is pretty much cut out. I don't think they have a chance to win. And the other half, I'm like, well, I don't actually know which one of you is going to win. So that's kind of where I'm at this point.
Yeah, I would say the people who I don't think are winning are Mary and Mitch just based on their positioning. And I think everybody else is in it to some extent. Like some people have greater
Yeah,
odds than others. Um,
sure.
but like I've seen people say that Mitch has a chance to win still.
Yeah,
And I mean I've seen the same of Mary, but I disagree with those people.
yeah,
And everybody else, I'm like, okay, I see it. Like I definitely see a world where Camilla wins. Definitely
yeah.
see a world where Joe wins still. Shaheen certainly. Kyle, I'm actually getting a little more wishy washy on.
Yes,
I'm
yep.
not really
Me
sure
too.
about him, and I think I'm missing someone. Um,
Eva.
yeah, Eva, and I still see a shot for Eva to win.
Yeah,
So
I think for me, I maybe lean more towards of who's not winning. Um, where I don't see I mean, I definitely see worlds and where some of these people do win, but I do
mhm.
think that they've made it harder for themselves
Oh,
in that.
certainly, yeah.
And I think we've seen that a lot in our Blood on the Clock Tower games, where like we think we need to execute this good person for X reason, and then it ends up screwing us over in the end, and the evil team wins. So I think there's people that like have chances still, and I'm not
Yeah.
including them because like I said, I don't think Eva and Joe are going to win, but there's still a shot for them to.
Yeah. Um, yeah, we'll have to see. I think a lot of it, honestly, like I'm kind of assuming at this point that like no huge move is going to be made. So part of me
Yeah.
just thinks it sort of comes down to maybe who wins fire making or like who
Yes.
can just pitch their case better. And it comes when it comes to the idea of someone pitching their case well, I look at okay, well, who's the best person at talking? Probably the guy who's a debate professor, aka
Probably.
Shaheen. And I've been
Yep.
saying since episode one, like my winner picks were between Joe and Shaheen. I was like, which one do I want? And I went for Joe because of the name. But
The
I was like,
name.
if Shaheen gets to the end, he wins. Like I think,
Hmm.
and I think that still kind of holds true because I mean, we nobody dislikes Shaheen. I don't think anybody's bitter towards Shaheen on the jury. Like David, I think is more mad at Joe and Eva for flipping than they are for Shaheen and Kyle being the initial flippers. Since
Sure.
he was the
Sure.
one saying, "Hey, you two, this is happening. We need to do something about it," and them not listening.
Which I think it's really funny David was saying that of like Kyle and Shaheen are gonna flip. Let's vote out Mitch. I was like, what? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
Like, I don't like that was crazy. I agree with you though. I like currently my prediction for how the season goes is I think it's Joe and Eva at the end, and whoever the third person is, they're winning. Is kind of my thought process. And right now, for me, that's either Kyle or Shaheen. And I don't. That's kind of my prediction for the end in this moment, based off of the fact that I don't think a move is going to be made. And granted, maybe I'm wrong.
yeah,
The preview indicated something would happen, but that happened last week. But maybe this time it's the truth. Who knows? But
yeah.
I do think like that's just the world that I'm seeing right now. I'm like whoever's sitting with them that's not Joe and Eva, I think wins. So it's just it feels like there's still a few options, but they're going to get dwindled down pretty fast, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting too because like it's pretty like open and obvious that people perceive Joe and Eva as basically playing the same game. Like they have not
Yeah,
differentiated their games at all. Where even other close allies like Camilla and Kyle have basically been playing completely different games since the merge, even though they're working tightly together.
yep,
And that can't be said about anybody else. Like everybody else is playing a unique game, but if it's Joe and Eva at the end, like people are going to split their votes depending on if they value
that's true.
Joe's, like gameplay more and the fact that he's probably been a little more strategic, or if they value Eva and never being targeted and maybe her story. But
Mhm.
whoever that third person is going to have basically be fighting against one story instead of two.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it'll be interesting for sure. If I had to make a prediction for who I think that final three would be right now, I would probably say I think Joe's there, no matter what. I think he might fulfill that like Mike Turner 42 sort of role of like
Yeah,
I'm an older guy who played a pretty strategic game but was loyal to my allies,
sure.
and then won't be able to really articulate it that well at the end. I think man, I don't know. I don't know who else is there, honestly.
It's
Because
tough to tell.
yeah, it is tough to tell. I think Shaheen's there. I just think he's found
Sure.
himself somehow in a very good position.
Mhm.
And then that third person, I don't know. It could be Kyle. It could be Kyle or Camilla. I think it might be one of those two.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, I could definitely be wrong, and maybe Joe and Eva go out next week. Like,
Yeah.
I'm maybe wrong, but I
Well,
just think that's where the season's going. I think especially the fact that Eva is like not even in anybody's mind the target. Like, it just feel like it's crazy to me that she's like
it's
two
wild.
very public advantages in a very public duo, and yet she has not. I don't think her name's been written down at all yet. No,
Nope.
we haven't even shown anybody considering voting her out, except for like Star for like 2 seconds this episode, where she's like, "Well, maybe Eva," and
See who
that
had
was
no
it.
power. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that was immediately deleted. So I just don't. It's hard to tell. I said this I think maybe in the Discord, but like for the most part I've been able to kind of tell who's going to win based off of the last few episodes. So I'm really interested to see what happens next week and the week after to see where we're landing going into the final
Eva
five.
Here's why I say that like if Eva gets to the end, I think she should have the strongest case. At this point,
Sure.
she has two advantages that can guarantee herself getting to the final five right now,
Yep.
with the safety without power and the idol. And she also still has a very public duo with Joe that everybody knows about.
Yep.
And she's also still in this strong majority alliance and hasn't been targeted once. To me, if I were on the jury and I heard that, it would be practically impossible for me to vote for anybody else because that by itself is like,
Yeah.
even Tony on Kagayan, who had all these advantages and like played them so well, he was still targeted. He
Oh
was
yeah.
still like, oh, we need to get rid of this guy. While Eva, like maybe because of her perception as being a follower or whatever, like has not had that perception whatsoever. When I think she probably should. Like
Yeah.
this is like in my opinion, like a Xander game from 41, but like
Yeah.
actually good. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because
Sure. Now that I was making the Xander comparison earlier too, so I agree with that.
like they both have advantages, but
Sure.
Xander was on the bottom basically the whole time,
Yeah.
and basically only got to the end through people wanting to work with him. Eva, as I said before, has been in this nucleus the entire game. Part of that is she didn't have to go to tribal council during the pre-merge, but like she hasn't been targeted whatsoever. Like, I think people are almost too scared to throw her name out to an extent because people like Shaheen and Joe have been working with her so tightly throughout the course of the game. But I don't know. That's how I see it. But I had a conversation with Marianne earlier this week because she was
Oh.
on the Patron call-in
Oh,
show,
fun.
and I asked her sort of about like Eva's perception, and she said something very interesting, which is Eva is the youngest person on the season by a mile. I think
She
the
is.
next,
Yeah.
I think the next youngest person on the cast that's like in this like jury like area is either Mary or Camilla, and I think they're
Maybe
both
Kyle.
maybe Kyle, and they're it's at least 29, and I think Eva's like
Right.
20 24. So it's like
Yeah.
maybe 23. So it's really, really different.
Mm-hmm.
And Marianne was like, the way that Eva wins is if she has somebody on the jury who is rooting for her and can say what her storyline is to everybody else. And that person would have to be Joe.
Yep.
But I mean, that's the only way that that happens is if somebody blindsides Joe and Eva doesn't
Correct.
know about it.
Yep.
And by doing so, that would be literally probably every other person gaining a leg up strategically on Eva by
Sure.
blindsiding Joe.
Yep.
So it's a weird spot. I think Eva has played a strong game, but the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, I don't really know if I see a path to her actually winning. Just realistically, based on how she's been playing, which that's
Yeah,
how it
and
goes.
she also had a really quiet episode. This episode, I don't know how but like the only confessional she gave were right before she talked about Mary, or when she was talking
Mhm.
about Mary at the beginning, and then at the food reward. That was pretty much it. And so like even
Yeah,
that like makes me have pause of why are we not getting to know her game more or anything like that. That's why I'm like leaning towards losing finalist for her, even though I don't think she's played a good game. Like I don't think she's played a terrible game, but I
yeah,
do just wonder like what pieces that she's going to be fulfilling in these next few episodes leading up to it.
yeah. Frankly, I would love to just get more insight on a lot of people in the game. Like,
Yeah,
what are they actually thinking? Like, where's Camilla at, really? Because, like, she
Camilla.
knows that she's not in this nucleus. Is she
Yeah.
really just, like, reliant on what Kyle is telling her to do? Because it doesn't
Yep.
seem like she is. But
Right.
at the same time, she's kind of like, well, me and Kyle are together, so that's my route to the end. Um,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. It was like kind of crazy to me her talking about that. Like she clearly has identified that like this four is the core and that she's not in it. But she's like, but I trust Kyle. And I'm like, okay, but like you're not in this four. So I don't know what you think. I was like, and like what are you gonna do? Like pull in Mitch and then make it a 3-3 at the like, is that what you're gonna is that your plan? And if I was
yeah,
Kyle, I'd be like, yeah, that's fine with me. Like keep thinking you're gonna be like, I don't know. And I think Kyle, I think, has a lot more emotional connection to people than I think I realized up until this episode. Just like the way that like he was very much like, "Oh, I can't vote out Joe. We just shared this like really deep
yeah,
thing." And I'm like, we're playing for $1 million here. Like at some point you have to be like, okay, someone's gonna have to just respect the fact that I'm trying to do this to better myself in this game and win.
yeah.
And maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm selfish, but I'd be playing to win, and I feel like a lot of people are not playing to win. Is how I feel currently.
Yeah, the reason why I'm kind of wishy-washy on Kyle is he had a confessional this episode that was basically saying, I don't know if strategic moves are the way to win this season. I think social bonds are way more important for how the season's gonna, dictate. And I think he's right to some extent. But I
Sure,
also think him trying to sort of play the middle and play wishy-washy like that isn't necessarily going to be respected, especially if he's not going to like take credit for it if he gets the final tribal council. Like, imagine if he's
mm,
standing there and he's like, yeah, I went based on my heart and what I thought was right and who my true allies were. And David's there, like, we were on the same tribe together. We had this whole thing of honor and integrity, and we were going to go to the end together, the strong people. And that was never real to you. Like, if, like, that's the type of thing that it's like, if this season comes to a head in that way, like,
sure.
that could be really interesting. But I don't know. I think Kyle is way too like in between right now. I think he kind of needs to pick a side of strategic or social, and he's kind of like struggling to
Teetering.
stay in a gray area that I don't think really exists.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, especially after this conversation with Joe, that apparently has made, which I get it. It was a very emotional moment, like very powerful moment too. I thought, with just him talking about that on national television is probably really hard to do, and so
Yeah,
I respect it for sure, and I can see why that would make it a little more. And Kyle even says it in the preview, which again I don't like to look at the preview because most of the time it's not going to tell us what's actually going to happen. But
mhm.
in the preview, he was like, every move from now on is going to hurt somebody, and that is the like weight of that's like the core of Survivor. Is at some point you're gonna have to cut the people you don't. And we've actually already seen it, which I hate this honor and integrity BS that we've been seeing.
Yeah,
Okay, because let's just rewind. Okay, we had Chrissy get voted out. That was in an alliance with Kyle, Camilla and David. But David's like, oh wait, I gotta work with the strong people. Yeah, Joe and Shaheen and all these people. And it's like, you talk about this loyalty and integrity. You voted out Chrissy without like blinking an eye. And then we have, on the other side of it, Star gives Eva her idol basically. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what kind of honor and integrity is that if you're just gonna vote her out? Like, I don't like. So they like, if they're gonna have this honor and integrity stuff be the center of their game, they have to own it, and they are currently not doing that, in my humble opinion. Like, it's like all of these things are starting to come to a head where it's like, hey, you're actually playing Survivor and you're doing the cutthroat thing, but you're not calling it because those are not the people that you want to. Because I think Chrissy is a strong player. Like, I don't think. Well, maybe not, but
Yeah.
maybe not a strong player, but I think she had potential. Like, I think the pre-merge, I was like, okay, like, and the quick flip to Bianca at the Bianca Tribal Council, like, there was some promise for Chrissy, but
Yeah.
David didn't see it that way because Chrissy's not big macho strong at challenges, and which is also kind of a moot point at this point too.
Yeah. It's really, I think you hit the nail on the head in the sense that, like, I think people who own how strategic they are going to be, the people who are successful at Final Tribal Council. Like,
Yep.
I don't think Eva's going to do that. I don't think Joe's
Nope.
going to do that. I don't think. I honestly, but like I said, I don't really know if Kyle's going to do that. I think Camilla would do that. I think Shaheen would do that.
Yep.
And Mary and Mitch would too if they get there. But yeah, it's a weird spot because, like, I think conceptually, theoretically, Kyle and Shaheen have played somewhat similar post-merge games.
I agree.
I mean, they flipped together off of David. They're both sort of in the strong alliance, but not really at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
They both have formed very good social bonds with people and are physical, but like not overly imposing, like the Joes and the Davids and even the Evas of the world. But they also are on completely different sides of how I feel like the edit is like presenting them. Like, Shaheen is under the radar. Like, he's this guy who, like, in terms of the pure votes, he's the one who keeps getting targeted. He's the one whose name is being thrown out there. But at the same time, it never feels like it's serious. It never feels like anything's actually ruptured his game. While for Kyle, it's like, theoretically, he's in a better spot. He's got his number one ally in Camilla on one side, and he's working closely with the strong person's alliance at the same time. But the way that we're being shown him is that, like, he's trying to be strategic, but he's actually making very emotional moves and sort of can't balance the two. So
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I definitely see that because I think we've seen a lot of negative out of Kyle recently, and we haven't really been getting out a lot of Shaheen. So I am interested to see how this next episode goes, especially because I do think Shaheen kind of won this episode for me, because I do think, like, Star was probably the better move for him to go in the long run, I think, because Mary comes to him and is like, hey, like, I like, use me as a vote, and like, I don't like that he like told people that, but at the same time, he's leaving a door open, whereas Star has like said Shaheen's name to some extent. I mean, again, it doesn't really feel real most of the time, so I don't, fully understand that. But I do wonder like what that's gonna look like for Kyle in terms of like moving forward if he's not gonna be able to pull the trigger. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think about Shaheen doing that? Hearing Mary say, hey, you can use me as a vote, and him going back to his allies and being like, hey, Mary said this to me, just so you know, but still keeping in the back of his mind is something he might use later. What do you think?
Sure, and I think actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think he actually said, like, she just wanted to stay one more day or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't actually think he like mentioned the like she wants to make a move, because like he even mentions like, oh, she wants Star out, like she like wants that, and so I do think that he's gonna use. I hope that he's gonna use that to some extent, because even Shaheen has to kind of think like, okay, where does he fit in this for? And all this stuff too. And I'm also interested with Shaheen specifically because like a few episodes ago, Kyle was like, Shaheen makes me nervous. He like feels like he's the person that's like right behind my shoulder. And I wonder if all that's going to come to a head too. Of like, does Shaheen pull one fast on Kyle, and that's how Kyle goes home? So I do like it from Sheen, and I don't think Sheen got a lot of credit for that. I think in this episode because I do think that he made the right room for himself. And I think some of the people probably should have gone for Mary other than Star. I think.
I have been so fascinated by Shine this entire season. I really have,
Mm-hmm.
mostly just because of him being like a player we've never seen before, and that he had a
Yeah.
perception going onto the island, despite him not being known by anybody.
Yep.
Like people knew him as the mysterious bearded guy from 45 and 46 or whatever.
Whatever.
They didn't
Yeah.
know, but they didn't know who he actually was. Like they didn't know how he
Sure.
played. They just knew that he seemed strategic
Yeah.
according to players who played on previous seasons. And he's had that perception the whole game. Like people, like I'm pretty sure Camilla knew who he was like beforehand,
Surely. Yeah.
and maybe one or two other people. I think Justin did. Not like it matters. He's gone. But you know,
Right.
like people, but people like knew who he was, and so he has been navigating that this entire season. And I think to
Yeah.
some extent, he's been the biggest threat in the game, the entire game, just because of that perception. But also, he's still here and he's
Still
played
here.
a very good game and is basically allies with most people, and he's not the number one enemy of anybody, even though
Right.
he's the consensus enemy at the same time. It's
Right.
weird.
No, it is weird because it does feel like every time it's like someone's like Chrissy wanted to get Shaheen out, Star wanted to get Shaheen out. It does feel like he's always like the one that's like getting his name thrown out at the last second, like, oh, well, what about Shaheen? And then everyone's like, no. So I agree with you. I am Shaheen. Honestly, I was very low on Shaheen preseason, partially because of his perception that he had his previous season that he
Yeah.
was an alternate for or whatever. I was like, I worry about that for him, but I've been really impressed with him this season overall.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about a few like specific things in this
Sure.
episode. This was an episode that, you know, I will be honest, I did not like care for this episode. But the thing that one of the most noteworthy things about this episode is I guess they decided to turn this episode into a musical. They had this song about what, like waffles or something,
Chicken and waffles.
chicken and waffles before the reward challenge, and then they had Star rapping not once but twice. And I just need to ask you, Bryce. So, what did you think about this?
What when it came to the chicken and first of all, and I don't know if you follow Kelly Wentworth on Instagram or TikTok or whatever platform she mainly is on, I don't know, but she was like, all these rewards feel the same to me. Like, and I agree with her. Like, whenever they got to the island, I was like, did they just go to a separate? Like, there's nothing special. Like, this looks like the same exact place that they've had the past 4 rewards at or whatever. Minus that, the chicken and waffles of it all. Can I just say, I wrote something down about this actually.
Okay.
Where did I write it down? Oh yeah, chicken and waffles. And at the end of it, Jeff says, "That's how we do it on Survivor." Is that how we do it on Survivor? I don't think that's how we do it on Survivor. Personally, I don't think that's how we do it. And granted, it was a really fun moment. And this season has been strangely musical, and like the Shaheen like doing the music at which I thought was hilarious personally. But like the chicken and waffles, I was like. And it's so funny because like you're watching, because like, I rewatched the episode today and I was rewatching and I was watching everybody like participate, and it's like, Star all in, Shaheen all in it, Joe is like, oh yeah, let's go, come on. And then you have Camilla who's like, chicken and waffles, like she's just kind of like going along with the flow. Like, I don't know, it's just like, I don't know, I think it was just, I don't know, I had no words to describe that. It's like, we've had the Applebee's of it all. I miss Applebee's. I'll say it. I miss it. I miss the over like that is so much more endearing to me than whatever this chicken and waffles was. Because he's like, say it with me now. Chicken and like, what are we doing? Like, and like honestly, like I don't. Again, all these rewards feel the exact same to me. Like I'm like, I miss the helicopter rides. Listen, budget cuts, whatever. It's fine. We're all cutting everything these days. In terms of the Star rapping, I saw this thing on Twitter maybe, and it was like a picture of Chris, or not Chris Noble, Wendell when he's voting for Chris, of like put the mic down, and I think I kind of felt that way to start for Star, but then like whenever the enemies are plotting part, I was like, okay, that's a little catchy. Like I'm here
Yeah.
for it. But it was just like, man, we have been missing out on Star. Like you mean to tell me her favorite hobby is to rap, and we're just now finding out about this, that her boot episode. Like that
Yeah.
is crazy to me. I would love to hear your thoughts on the musical Survivor 48 episode 10.
So, I I don't even know where to begin. So my biggest thought is I think this. I think when it comes to this chicken and waffles thing happening, that's one thing. It's another thing to also actually put it in the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because like there's so many things that I'm sure Jeff does. Jeff does these ridiculous British accents and like stuff like this. He's really become
sure.
kooky Jeff Probst. Like he's a weird guy now.
He's a weird
And
guy.
that's okay. And you know, that's great to some extent. But like I'm sure not all of it makes the cut. Like I'm sure he's just constantly doing some weird bits that even the editors are like, we can't put this in. But they decided to put this in. And
They did.
I was trying to think of like, okay, well, why would they do this? Why would they put this chicken and waffles song in? And I
Wow.
think they're really trying to force the season to be fun at this point. Um,
Mm,
they're trying to force the entertainment value because frankly, like I'm sure the editors know that hey, the past few episodes haven't been that exciting itself.
right.
And
Right.
so they're trying to be like, well, all right, we'll give you more camp life. We'll give you this Mitch story about the dogs, and we'll have everybody say it's the funniest thing ever. And you know, we're gonna show off the personalities of these contestants that we haven't shown off the entire season because now we need to.
Right.
Um, so that's my thought. In terms of the actual music, oh my god, I hated it. Like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Like I, you know,
Oh man.
Survivor's been on television for 48 seasons now.
Yep.
There have been a lot of moments that have made me wince, made me even cringe, some might say. Um, both moments were there. Like, he, here's something that bothered me. This is just such a small thing, but we
Mhm.
had the star rapping thing, and like I'm fine with that because it's
Sure.
interesting. It shows
Sure.
how it's her perception of herself in the game
Yep.
and the tribal council, and also shows off her personality.
Yep.
And then she gets voted out. And then her exit confessional, which normally wraps a bow around, you know, the season, is her rapping again. And it's showing off her personality after she already got eliminated.
Right.
And it's like trying to retroactively say, wasn't Star such an interesting personality? No, you did show her off the entire
She had 18
season.
confessionals the whole season.
Yeah, like like it. That's the type of thing that annoyed me. But like, I get it from an editing perspective. I just
Sure.
think it feels manufactured. The chicken and waffles thing was definitely manufactured.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh.
you know, even if the star rapping thing wasn't, I'm sure production was like, and hey, I hear you like rapping, so you know, maybe do something. You know, I don't
Sure. Yeah. And it was funny, like the way it was like the zoom in on Star, like the upper angle, like as zooming in, and it's like
know.
swipe, like they're used like their slow mos that they like to make before. I'm so curious about those. Can I just
Yeah,
say, like, are they like, okay, you go like crouch down, look deeply into the ocean, and we're just gonna get a nice zoom in as you're like thinking about tribal. Like, is this like how like when did this become a thing? Did I miss this? Because I think I noticed it like maybe last season, and I was like, I do that. Have they always done this? Have they always done this like slow mo like pan of like what you're
yeah,
doing before tribal? Like it's just wild to me. But I agree with you. I think the chicken and waffles thing feels a little forced. Maybe the star one isn't as forced, but like I agree with you. Like if they're gonna show her personality like in the, I don't know. It's just like such an interesting season. I think to, and you know, like I said, maybe in a few years, season 52 rolls around. Like maybe season 48, not that bad.
yeah. Look,
Maybe.
I don't think it's like a bad season right now. Like if I had to rank the new era seasons, I'd have it about on par with 43 right now, maybe a little
Well, wait, where
lower.
do you have 43?
Okay, I have a big list on my phone. I'm gonna pull it up, but I'm just gonna say I think 43 is like a completely average season of Survivor. I think it
Oh
has
yeah.
good points. I think it has low points. I think it's completely average. Um, sorry, let me pull up this list. I'll just say that like 45 is my favorite by far.
Okay.
And you know, but what are your thoughts?
So I think for me, in terms of like the season itself in this moment in time, I
Mhm.
and I don't like 43. I so much love and respect. Like I can't, and I haven't rewatched it yet, so maybe I need to do a little rewatch, see if it sparks some flames that I
Yeah,
missed. But like I just like don't I just don't like it. I was so infuriated after that finale of like why, like so infuriated. More infuriated than I was whenever Erica won. Not even because
yeah,
Erica shouldn't have won. I actually thought Erica should have won in that final three. But I was just mad that they didn't show her any. But for me, this season is like barely better than 43 at this rate.
yeah,
Um, but that's my opinion. But I would love to hear what your current breakdown of the new era is.
yeah. So to me, 43, like I said, is a completely not even average. I'd say probably okay season of Survivor.
Sure.
I'd say it's an okay season of television. Average season of television, which means it's maybe a little subpar across all Survivor seasons since
Yeah.
Survivor's so great. In terms of the
Sure.
47 seasons that are like done, I'd say 43 is like the 33rd best. That's where I have it ranked. I have a list on my
Oh
phone.
wow.
So it's bottom half. That being said, I still have it ahead of two other New Era seasons, being 41 and 44.
It's fair.
I'm not a fan of 44. In fact, I might even say that I'm a 44 hater. I
Wow.
have it as the 44th best season of Survivor 44. So
Wow.
I'm not a fan. And I think
Wow.
41, I have it below just because the editing is so rough.
Yeah, the editing for that one is not fun.
But I think the narrative of that season's good. It's almost like sort of what we're getting in Survivor 48, where like there's an interesting narrative there of Erica and Heather that isn't shown whatsoever,
Sure.
that we could have gotten, but instead just feels like, we're focusing on the advantages, we're focusing on Xander, and we're focusing on the do or dies and all the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that's being thrown at the wall, the hourglass twist and whatnot. And I have 43 above those two. That being said, 43 has its own problems. I think
Right.
everybody knows what they are. Just
Yeah.
once again the editing to some extent.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, right now I think 48 would be about there because 48 I think generally has had higher highs, but it also has infuriated me more, quite honestly. Like the
Mm-hmm.
43 ending, the finale, like personally I was like, okay, well then Jesse's gonna win, and then Jesse was out, and then it's like, oh, I don't know who's gonna win anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Gabler or Cassidy, one of the two of them, and then I didn't really have like any strong thoughts. I thought it was an interesting finish. I didn't realize that like everybody thought Cassidy was gonna win until I went on the internet afterwards. But that was just me. Um, but I think 48 has higher highs. I mean, it had the Thomas note, which was really good,
It's
that
true.
whole entire blindside. But the
Yeah, that
journey
was
thing,
great.
the three people going home because of the journey, essentially, or the journeys being Thomas, Bianca, and Justin, are still bother me. It still bothers me. And now we're at sort of this lull. So I'd
Yeah.
put it around there for now. But I still think that there's hope. I still think that there's a way that they can turn this ship around and turn it back the right way. But yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I also have a list. I
Okay.
currently have 43 as 37th.
Okay, a little lower than me. Okay.
A little bit lower. And actually I'm realizing 47 is not on here yet. Oops.
Yeah.
And then I have 41 at 32.
Yeah. No,
And
I
then
get that. Yeah.
yeah. I have 44 at 19, which I'm kind of rethinking about now. And then I actually do
Yeah.
have 45 as at number 9, which I think is actually, I think I said earlier that it was none of the new eras are in my top 10, but I guess I lied because it
Yeah.
is number 9.
Yeah. 45 is number 13 for me, which, it's a little lower than you, but I mean,
Sure.
still, like, compared to, I mean, like, the new era's been stagnant. So if one can get even that close, I think that's a good thing,
Yeah. No, for
in
sure.
my opinion.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I don't even know how much there is really more to say about it. Just like 48 is like it's become stagnant, and stagnant
Yep.
seasons are not fun unless there's like a big catharsis. Like I have a few seasons that could be viewed as stagnant to some extent. Like I have a South Pacific at number 12. I love South Pacific, but that season gets very stagnant towards the merge, where you're just voting out all the people from the red tribe over and over again.
Yep.
Gets kind of boring. Same is true of Survivor China. There's a bit of a pagonging at the merge as well, and then the end game only gets particularly interesting after that. Stuff like that. I mean, that's very real, but like the narratives of the season are so strong there. But the editing, I think the Survivor editing is like the best editing of any show. I think it's so good. I think they do a great job most
They
of the
do.
time. But when they do a bad job, it's really apparent.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I don't know if they're doing a bad job right now, but you know, I
I'm
got
interested to
news.
see how we finish off. I think depending
Yeah.
on how we finish off, like I can look back because like even with Erica, like I went back and watched 41, not recently, but like maybe in the past like year or so, and I
Yeah.
was like, okay, like I can kind of see where they were going, like with it. Like, I was like, it's not great, but like I can kind of see like their sort of path into where they were trying to go. But 48, I agree. It's getting stagnant. It's getting a little
Mhm.
boring. Um, but we'll see. We still have 2 episodes before the finale. I'm really hopeful that we can get something good and crazy.
Yeah. I'm trying to see. Is there anything else like super noteworthy about this episode? Oh, I want to talk about Star's gameplay
Oh
actually
yeah,
because
we should.
Star went home,
She did.
and
Lest we
she
forget.
she had a very interesting sort of non-strategy when it came to how she was going to get out of the vote because she decided that she's not going to play her shot in the dark and she's
Yep.
just going to kind of let it be what it is. And
Hmm.
um, I got flashbacks to Survivor Nicaragua in this way because Brenda did the exact same thing when she knew that she was going to be voted out or could be blindsided.
Hmm.
She made the executive decision that no, I'm not going to scramble. Scrambling is not something I'm going to do.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
then she got voted out that episode and it was like, okay, well, good, a lot of good that did
Yeah,
you.
for sure.
And that's kind of how I feel about Star here. Not to say that I think
Yeah.
Star had a super great out, but I think she definitely could have said that, hey, Mary's a bigger like threat to get people together than I am. I haven't done anything. you know.
Right. Yeah.
But she didn't.
Yeah. I agree. She definitely did kind of lay her torch down a little bit in this episode. Like even at Tribal, like I was just like, are you really not considering it? Like someone literally told you to do that.
Yeah.
They said you should play it. Like, and granted, maybe she just like was trying to call the bluff. And I think I didn't listen to it, but I think I saw somewhere where I think she was talking to Rob in her exit interview last week and said that like she thought it was gonna be uh like leaning Mary. Like I
Mhm.
guess they convinced her enough to not do it. I did think it was kind of baffling them being like, yeah, Mary is more likely to win immunities than Star. And I was like, all of these challenges have not been like puzzle heavy. And I
Yeah.
don't even know if Mary's good at puzzles. I can't even remember like off the top of my head if she's good at puzzles. Also, where are the puzzles? That's what I want to know.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
not the person that we know, but where are they at? Like I was very happy to see the balance one, but I was like, where are the puzzles? I digress. Star. So I think Star's gameplay is very old school overall, but like I don't think she like really had a lot of outs in like she did not have anybody rooting for her because I think Jeff
Yeah.
said in the preseason this season's about pairs, and we've definitely seen that in Kyle and Camilla. We've seen it with Joe and Eva. We've seen it with David and Mary. We've seen it even with Say and Cedric. Like we've seen
Yeah.
these pairs throughout the season, and Star just never got a pair. And I think they're also just tired of having Star around because like I feel like Star she got a lot of hate this episode. I feel like everyone's like we need to get Star out. We need to get Star out. And I'm like
Yeah.
why?
I don't get that.
I
That's
don't get it
another
at all.
thing.
It came out of nowhere. I was like, what are we doing? Like, and so I think Star just like didn't have enough. I think she was just a warm body around, and maybe that's bad to say, but I just think like
I
she was
agree.
just there.
Yeah.
But again, why if you're Joe or Eva, why are you taking out the person that has no chance? And again, could have utilized this honor and integrity like, hey, I got you this idol. Let's work together. Let's get out
Mhm.
Camilla. Let's get out Kyle. But no, they still chose to vote out Star, who hasn't really proved herself to be more of a challenge threat than Mary at all, even though they think Mary's going to win a challenge. I'm like, I don't think, unless it's like puzzle galore. Like I don't even, and even then, I don't even know if Mary's that good at puzzles. But so
Yeah.
for Star's gameplay overall, I would say is very old school with no legs to stand on it. It's kind of how I feel about her game overall.
It's really interesting because I think Star theoretically, like based on what we know about her gameplay, actually played the game very interestingly, at least in the
Sure.
pre-merge, because she had this beware advantage, and she said to everybody like, "Hey, I'm not going to solve this. If you solve this for me, I'm going to let you have the idol." That's what she said. We didn't see that on television, but that's what she was telling people. And then Eva cracks the code, and Star's like, "Hey, you can have this idol." And I think like theoretically, like I would have been like, "Oh, that's super smart." Like I would have loved to do
Oh
that
yeah.
if I were on the show. But I think the problem with that showed immediately, which is like you can't force somebody to be your ally, and that's sort of what Star was trying to do.
Yep. Agreed.
I liked it theoretically, but I mean, if
Yeah,
Eva doesn't care, she doesn't care. You know what I
sure.
mean?
And Eva was already not a fan of Star beforehand, and
Yeah,
I like I guess maybe it did like give her some good graces enough for Eva to back off of it and be like, okay, well, maybe I could use Star down the
yeah.
line. But obviously now, like she's not worth it for her to
But
keep.
the words you say are like maybe I can use her down the road. It's not maybe I can work with her. It's maybe as long as she's not going against me and
Yep.
doesn't want to get rid of me, I may as well not get rid of her. I think that was basically what Eva was thinking,
Sure.
which can maybe speak to how she didn't take advantage of the situation at hand. Um, and that's definitely a flaw in her gameplay, but
Hmm. For
it
sure.
it's interesting because I think after that didn't really work. Star just was kind of like I think she was trying to get people together. I think she was like, "Hey, we should get rid of Shaheen," or "Hey, let's all band together. These people are running the game." But like, I don't think she was like working that hard at it. I think she was
Yeah.
like, you know, I think she was kind of, as you said, a warm body to some extent, just laying
Yeah.
around. So yeah,
Yeah. And maybe there was some stuff we didn't see, but even just like I don't know, just I think she was just grasping at straws for most of the game, and I think her original tribe at Logi, I don't think she like fully made any bonds. I
yeah,
think she would have been the boot had they gone to tribal, and I think if Logi had gone to tribal before the swap, I just don't think she's at this part of the season at all. Like I
yeah,
just don't like, and even like the post swap, like she's pretty much in a good spot with that one. I mean, Eva was kind of targeting her, but I don't think David would have let Charity gone any further than what she did. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, I again, Star, I really do wish my fiance's name is Star, so she was pretty devastated this week that Star went home. It was also her birthday. So that I
Oh
was
my
like
god.
she's like, this is the worst birthday present ever. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. So I was like, this is kind of ironic, but it's you know, it was just funny. Anyways, I wish we would have gotten more of Star. Um and I'm kinda not surprised at how she played out the season, to be honest with you. Like, kind of the star that I heard in the preseason was the star that we got and the star that went out. So,
Yeah, like a
um,
star, she flamed out.
she did
Um,
flame out, but did she? She kind of dimmed.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think she really
yeah,
flamed out. I
yeah,
think
that's
David
true.
flamed out more than she did.
No, but I mean, in the sense that, like, and I've seen this quite a bit in the editing this season, is like,
Yeah.
the people who go home sort of get like that little burst of confessionals right before they go home.
Oh,
And it's like
sure.
that happened to Chrissy, that happened to Star, of course. I'm sure that's happened to other people. Say was talking a lot about how, oh, I'm in a great spot right before she went home. That happened to
Which
Bianca, you know.
that is true. Which even like Joe and Eva have these very, in my opinion, very bad looking confessionals of like, I'm in a really great spot. And I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, I can't believe Eva's confessional this episode.
I was
Where
like,
yeah,
what? I was gobsmacked from that. That was crazy.
I really expected like I was like as she was saying that like oh I'm in a fantastic position I think I'm in a great spot no one's coming after me I expected someone immediately after to be like oh why don't we just get rid of Eva and then everybody hopped on board but instead that's just kind of sitting there for now and I'm bet we'll do something with that later but
Sure. Yeah, I am
yeah
here. I'm curious and kind of hoping that I just feel. Here's the thing. I currently am predicting that Joe and Eva end up in the final two together. I could
Mhm.
be very wrong, but I'm just imagining either one of them getting blindsided out of the game, and I think that would just be fantastic television. I think
Yes.
this is why I would have a hard time on Survivor. I think I'd be like, what's the best TV that I could do right now? Like, because I just think that will be so. It could be really sad, like depending on who goes home. Like, I think if Eva goes home, I think Joe's just gonna be ticked off. Like, he's gonna be
Oh
so
yeah.
angry and mad, and it's just gonna be terrible. But I think if like Joe goes home, like I think Eva's gonna be crying. Like, I think it's just gonna be this whole like the music. I can hear the music that's playing as Joe's getting voted out.
Well, I have to imagine that like some part of why nobody's targeting these two is they're this big like duo who has power. They're in this nucleus, but also like if you vote one of them out, you know you're gonna piss the other person off for the
Oh
rest of
yeah,
the game, and you know that the person that gets voted out is gonna like basically tarnish your reputation on the jury. Like you
sure.
know, say if Kyle flips on Joe and Joe goes home, Eva's never going to work with Kyle again.
Oh no.
And Joe on the jury is going to be like, this guy, David, you're right. This guy is a snake. And Kyle's
Yeah.
not going to win, you know?
Yeah, and I honestly get that from Kyle. Like, although like I kind of, and I think this was supposed to be a hint for Camilla to just you got. I think Camilla's got to drop Kyle at some point, and if she wants to win, because I think because you're right. I think Kyle correctly says like I can't vote Joe out, not
Yeah.
after what we just talked about, like how we bonded, how like even getting David out was probably like really hard for both of them to some extent, but like it's like Camilla, you have got to recognize that yes, Kyle is your number one, and but there's going to come a point where he can't save you anymore, and I don't think Kyle is going to want to stick his neck out too far for Camilla, or maybe Jeb. Maybe that's also true, but like I don't know if Kyle's willing to blow up his spot for Camilla as much as Camilla's willing to blow her spot up for Kyle, and I
I
think
agree.
that is what's going to get Camilla. Um, Unless Camilla decides to flip on Kyle, which I think would also be incredible television.
Yeah. Frankly, I'm just kind of wondering, like, which side does Kyle actually want to go to? I mean, obviously,
Right.
that's a question he's wondering himself, but the way
Sure.
he's talking makes me think that he wants to stick with Joe more than he
Yeah.
wants to actually stick with Camilla at this point, which makes me wonder, like, if he blindsides Camilla and the final three is Joe, Eva, and Kyle, and all of them have burned everybody on the jury, who is actually going to win in that situation?
Right. Yeah. Maybe we'll get a scenario where all three finalists get a jury vote. Well, maybe that'll
Yeah.
happen for once. I kind of
Oh,
doubt that's going to happen ever, but
let's not get crazy.
let's not get too crazy with all the ideas. I just want Survivor to like mix it up again. Like I don't.
Well, yeah.
It just drives me crazy.
That's why I'm so excited for season 50. Is like every time, every episode, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm here, I'm locked in. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, season 50 is happening soon. You know, I haven't
See you
been paying
next spring.
attention. I've been paying attention to casting rumors, but like I hear the cast is getting dwindled down, and soon enough we'll know. And like then they'll go out and they'll be like, oh, this person's playing and this person's playing, and oh, and you know, in the hands of the fans, like it's gonna have to be different to some extent, and
Some
it's
extent.
like, you know, that's exciting. I'm excited
It
for
is
that.
exciting. It's very exciting. I just like it's like every season I'm like, okay, what three tribes, what four-letter word can we come up? What four-letter Fijian word is gonna be
Mhm.
this one, or two, however many letters any of these people are. And okay, like oh, we got the primary colors this season. Oh, next season we got the secondary colors. And I will say I'm glad they're having fun with the merge buffs. I'm glad we're not just doing black every season. I love that we're
Mhm.
we had the fun. What was it? We had what was last season for you?
Wasn't it like a
Purple. It was like a
purple? Yeah,
purple, and then this one's a blue. I like that, but like I just am like, and actually, this brings me to another point that I forgot to mention earlier:
sure, sure.
the rice negotiation.
Oh,
Why?
right.
Why did we waste time on that? Like they didn't want it. Why did we put it in there? I don't think maybe we would see it in like a cut of like them panning and the rice is sitting there like, oh, did they have a rice negotiation? And they just like, why did we have to show that? Like I don't understand. That was like a waste of time. Like we could have
Yes,
used. Granted, it was like maybe 2 minutes long, but like
it's 2 minutes still. Like,
it's two
yeah.
minutes. Like it's like we could have like been a little bit faster with it. It's like, oh, Mitch is like, none of us are gonna do it, and Jeff's like, great, let's get started, and I'm like, Like, let's get rid of it. Like, I don't like. It was interesting for a few seasons, but it's like Mitch said. It's like at this point, we're here, and like even Shaheen, he's it's at this point, it's day 19. You have a week.
Yeah.
I am not giving up my shot in immunity when I have a 7 days. I've already done 19 of these. I don't need an extra bag of rice. And granted, I've never played Survivor. I've never been hungry. Praise God. I don't like I don't get it. Like I would be there to
Yeah.
play Survivor. I'm not there to get fed. So that's just my opinion. I don't think I'm the only one that thinks that. It was fun for a few seasons. Let's cut the rice. Cut the
Yeah,
rice.
no. It was so forgettable that I forgot that it happened.
Yeah, no,
It's just
I was
yeah.
so mad.
Yeah, I
Angry.
mean, it's interesting too because like the whole like thesis of it, like the life lesson to be taken from this particular rice negotiation is, I think Shaheen or someone saying like, "That's right, Jeff. You throw these twists at us, and we'll come up with our own strategies." And
Yep.
like, yeah, theoretically that's interesting, I guess, but it's also like not a new strategy. Like people haven't sat out of the rice negotiation for the past season or two. Like it's not
Right.
really a new thing.
But it is interesting to like hear this, and I think back to last season whenever they all gave up their shot in the dark for
Yeah,
Rice or whatever, and I was just like, and because they're all like, we don't really care about the shot in the dark, and Jeff was like, what? You don't like the shot in the dark? And they're like, no, it's
I
kind of
know.
like and granted, it has produced some fun moments. Like I will remember the feeling I had when Caleb's shot in the dark hit. Like it was
Mhm.
incredible. Like it was awesome. It was like
Yeah,
like top 10 favorite moments of Survivor is that because it was just so good. Part of it was because my friends were there and it was kind of their first season they were watching and they were all yelling and screaming at the TV with me and I was like, wow, this is awesome. But I I just wonder like if Jeff in moments like this he's like, wait, is this not fun? Like I don't, I need Mike White to call him up and be like,
yeah.
"Hey Jeff, this ain't fun. Stop it, please." Maybe he'll listen to that.
I Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that one of the biggest like elements of this whole thing is just the
Mhm.
very concept of like the rights negotiation is this thing that's designed to make the game more interesting, dangerous fun, like we are turning the
The
season on the
monster.
head. Yes, exactly. But in reality now it's just like even more predictable. Like the more stagnant it becomes, like
Yep.
these twists aren't twists anymore. They're just
Right.
like even Jeff is like, this happens every season. You know it's coming. It's the rice negotiation. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, okay, well, where's the intrigue then? Like
Right. Or
mhm,
like even the mergatory. It's like we like it's happening. Here we go. It's like, okay, but why does it have to happen every time?
yeah,
Why can't we just merge one time? Why don't we just go down to 11 and then
yeah,
start the jury with the whole merge instead of having doing this like BS split the tribe into and the first person the people that
yeah.
lose get, like I hate that. Like I just there's so many things about the new era that I'm like, why can't we just mix this up a little?
Yeah, I mean, this is how patterns that have happened throughout the new era happen. Like, this is how we see like these consensus booths happen at the Mergatory, where it's like,
Yes,
well, we're just gonna get rid of this like young woman from the most powerful tribe of the pre-merge. Like, that's what happens every time.
pretty much.
Or it's like at Split Tribal, we're gonna get rid of the person who's like marginally like is so someone who's just kind of on the outs, who like we kind of all want out. Like, that's
Right.
how you get these consensus booths and stuff like
Sure.
that. And that's why I have to give credit to like the fact that there was a swap this season. Like that made it much more interesting
Agreed.
theoretically than it has been otherwise because you can't predict how the numbers are going to lay out, and so you have to think on your feet. Well, I think for the first few votes of like the merge and the mergatory, we're just kind of like going by the books, just
Right.
going with the flow, whatever
Sure.
else.
Yeah, and I think even the tribe swap this season was a lot more intriguing than the tribe swaps of 44 and 45, which like 44
Yeah,
was just a non like I don't even really count that as a swap. I mean, I guess
no,
technically it was a swap, but like it doesn't really count.
not really.
But like 45, I think the numbers were pretty similar. Like I
They
think
were, yeah,
like Sean, Emily, and Caleb, I think they all got split up. I think they were all in different tribes,
they were,
perhaps.
yeah.
And so like it was like a little like tough, but like this time it was like, we had two Vula on one tribe. We had like everyone was pretty evenly distributed within the tribes, which makes it a lot more fun. Um, but again, it's like, why do we have to have every season that like we have a disaster tribe that gets down to 3 members and then we're like, okay, now we can swap? It's like, why can't we just do that anyway?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is once again another point of like new era seasons rely very heavily on the cast. And I mean, I do give it
Yes.
credit. I think for the most part, the casts of the new era have been having good. I think
Yeah,
42
absolutely.
has a good cast. I think 43 has a good cast. I think 45 has a great cast. 46, 47,
Sure.
and
Sure.
48. They all have big highlights. But they're so reliant on those personalities to drive the season.
Yep.
Like it's almost sort of old school in that sense of like, the reasons
Sure.
why there's intrigue for Borneo and Australian outback and Africa and those early ones is because of the early competitors and seeing people from different walks of life. Except instead of people literally from all different walks of life, here in the new era, it's let's see how these different ranges of Survivor fan interact with one another, which is still interesting. And I'm still watching the
Sure.
show, and I'm still doing a podcast about it, and I still love it.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
it also goes to show that if like the personalities specifically aren't delivering, like there's not a lot of saving it if all the twists are stuff we've seen like 4 times beforehand or whatever else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree. It's funny. I remember I think it was the premiere of 42 where Jeff was like, okay, so you're going to see a lot of the same things this season, but guess what? This cast hasn't seen them yet because we filmed these seasons back to back. And I'm like, okay, but they're not like, that doesn't make it fun for us. Like, sure, it could be
Yeah.
fun for them, but they don't like, because he's like, they're going to interact differently, which I am glad that they recognized. Or no, did they not recognize? I can't remember. Did they switch the hourglass twist between 41 and 42, or
No,
did
they did
they?
not.
Okay, so they didn't do it. I remember that when that happened, and everyone was so mad because they were like, more likely it's the same thing, and so,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so, but yeah, I agree with you. I think the casts, even this cast, like I really, I think this cast kind of surprised me a little bit in some ways. Like I was very low on Camilla pre-merge. Like I was like, she just like is not give like I don't know. There was something about her that I was like, I don't know if she's gonna be a good player, but then she's really surprised me. Um, I said in my preseason, I was like, I say it as if I was talking to anybody about myself, but I was like, there's just, I kind of, I think maybe Rob said this in the preseason. He's like, I don't think there's any way Stephanie and Say make it out of the tribe together, and I was like, I agree with that because they are just so. But it was that intrigue of like hearing Stephanie, hearing about like how they were like strong-winded people and they're on this tribe that's eventually going to implode, and then like
Mhm.
this cast has been a good cast. I just think that the gameplay has gotten really stagnant, and so like I said, I'm hopeful that maybe a big move will still happen, but
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know if it's in the cards this season.
Well, let me ask you two big questions.
Okay.
Number one, who do you think's going to go home next episode, Bryce?
Ooh, who do I think's going to go home?
Now, this is a
Hmm.
tough one for me too because I'm in a few different
Yeah.
camps, but I want to hear your
I'm
thoughts.
also in a few different camps because like and I've said this like 3 times already today, but like I hate looking at the preview because one, it gives me hope that something like last week I was like, rocks, come on, like let's go, like I want it so bad, I want another rocks so bad, but I knew it in my heart of hearts that it was probably gonna be Star, and here we are. So
Yeah.
I think going into next episode, I'm in. I think as you probably are also in a few different ideas. I think I see a world in which the strong either pick off Mary or they get rid of a Mitch or Camilla,
Mhm.
and could be. I definitely see a world in which Camilla goes home, and like maybe Joe is like, okay, like you have to cut Camilla, like we're done, like we don't need her. And maybe Mary wins immunity, and then like Camilla becomes. So I could see a world in which that's happened. I'm gonna say either I'm in the Mary and Camilla is going home, or a Joe or Eva blindside. It's tough for me to tell like which one. I know the episode was kind of leaning towards the Joe and Eva of it all. It seemed, if I remember it correctly, um, or at least that
Yeah.
Shaheen was going to try to make a move. So, with Mary, and so I could see both of those camps. I'm currently leaning more in the Camilla Mary of it all, just because of how the season's gone already, and me trying to set my standards to how this episode's gonna go.
Yeah. I'm gonna go like reverse order. I'm gonna go with the people who I don't think are going to go home. I
Okay,
don't
great.
think Cheyenne's gonna go
No.
home. I don't think Kyle's gonna go
Okay.
home.
Yeah.
And so I don't think Eva's gonna go home. I think she has two advantages. I think that
Right.
the
When does the
likelihood of
safety without power expire? Do we know?
at
6 or
final
7?
seven, at
Okay, so
final
this
seven,
she's
it's gonna be
doing. She
safe.
has to use it this week.
Yeah. So I think she'll
Okay.
be safe.
Okay, that's fair.
I think it's 7. It might be 6, but either way, she has two advantages and she has 3 rounds to use them. So I don't think people are going to target her. So that leaves Mitch, Joe, Camilla, and Mary. I think of those people, I think Camilla still has the Kyle connection. I think
Yeah,
Kyle is really going to go to bat for her and really doesn't want to have to
he
make
already
a
has.
decision
So
on which one to vote out. I think he's going to keep trying to sit on that for as long as possible.
for
And I
sure.
think he's going to, try to say, hey, let's get rid of a Mary or a Mitch before getting rid of Camilla. Like, he really does not want to pull that trigger. I think if there's a move to be made, it's going to be against Joe. But once again, Eva does have these two public advantages. Cheyenne's still working closely with Joe. Kyle doesn't want to vote out Joe. So I don't think Joe's going to go home either. So I think it's between Mitch and Mary.
Yeah.
Mary's public enemy number 1, and people are claiming that she's good at challenges. So
again, I don't really. I mean, I guess
she did like the poll. Well,
Yeah.
she got second in that, but compared to Eva and Kyle and
Right.
Cheyenne, Joe and Mitch, like, come on.
Especially if they keep doing these like technique or like the throwing of the rings or whatever. Which, by the way, I just say with the throwing of the rings, I think they should have to get one on each of the posts, not just get it.
Yeah.
What's the point of the 3 posts then? Like what are we doing? So that's just, again, I have a lot of rants from this episode.
Yeah, a lot of the challenges sort of blew by my brain. Like, I know that we did like the Ben, like heroes versus healers versus hustlers, like a block stacking challenge, and that one's fun. But yeah, that one's fun. But also, it's like I don't really have anything crazy to say about it.
Sure.
We got a very very long slow mo of Joe's face at the end of the challenge.
What was that? I was like, what? That also felt so unnecessary. I'm like, and like even like I was like, okay, I get you're supposed to like go slow, but like I feel like his second foot was on the ground for like way too long. I was like, you could have already, like, were you that unsteady with it that like you thought you couldn't? I guess maybe, I don't know. I'm not out there to do it, so I don't know. But
my theory as to why they did that is in 46 they had some very cool moments with the slow mo where it came to the purple tribe, whatever the tribe name was, a two syllable Fijian word, who kept losing, and they had Q pull back a slingshot and then miss and stuff like that, and it was very dramatic and it was very cool. And I think they're kind of trying to force that now. They're like, people really like that. So let's keep doing that.
Right. But not with
regardless.
Slow, like we didn't need that. Like we did not need, like we could have just put the step up, which I am glad they like cut to the zoom in and they like cut back and he's already like at the platform. I was like, okay, well at least we're not still gonna milk this as long as we can, because I was like, golly, like that, man. They're really fishing for things to put in this edit, I think.
No, they are. And this conversation has like proved that to me. Is like, it's apparent that the editors don't really know what to do either with part of it. Even though I feel like there's gotta be something else.
Yeah.
But regardless, to finish my thought on who I think's going home.
Oh yes.
I think it's between Mitch and Mary. Quite honestly. I mean, it has to take a move, but it also has to take Mitch working with the people that he says that he doesn't trust, which is Mary. And he's already said, I don't really want to do that. So I think it's Mary going home, because Mary is still, at least what Joe said directly to her, is this person who can, guide people and make them go off the beaten path, and is, influencing David like a marionette.
She's a puppeteer.
Like exactly. Yeah. And Mitch does not have that perception. Like, Mitch is, he's perceived as having a good story, but frankly, if he gets to the end, I don't think he'll necessarily win automatically or even win any votes necessarily.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's. Yeah, I think if he does get it to the end, I think he's more of an Owen than anything.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I do think Mary's more likely to
same.
go home.
Same.
And we already sort of touched on this question, but
Yeah.
I'll throw it back to you just one
Okay.
more time of like, who do you think is actually going to win at this point?
Yeah. For me, I think going into this episode, I was leaning more Kyle as my winner. He's my winner pick. I know you he was my episode 1 winner pick. I'm sure you have yours with Joe. I know that's and there's still my heart of hearts thinking that Kyle's going to win. But I think after this episode, I'm leaning more Shaheen because I think Shaheen is in a much better spot than we recognize, especially just with. I think for me, it was seeing Kyle have such this like stark transition of like um not wanting to burn Camilla or Joe.
Yeah,
And I'm like, and I think Shaheen's willing to do that if he needs to. Shaheen, I think, has the most wiggle room in terms of like where he like everyone kind of is working with him except like actually yeah pretty much everybody's working with him mostly and he hasn't really burned anybody that's still left in the game. I don't think, no, not really.
I
I
don't
don't,
think so.
he's yeah, and so like I think he's going to be a very pivotal character, and I do wonder because like even this past I think was it this episode we got a flashback of him, or maybe that was the episode before. Anyways, we've just gotten a lot of like subtle things of Shaheen doing things that I think will. So I'm leaning more Shaheen, but I definitely don't think Kyle is out of the contender just yet. And I do see a world in which Joe wins. Just everybody else, I'm just not. I'm more. I think I'm just more in the Shaheen Kyle camp, leaning
Yeah.
Shaheen in this moment.
I mean, I already talked about it. I
Yeah.
think Shaheen, in my opinion, is the most likely winner at this stage. But I do have to give Survivor credit in this extent. I've been flip flopping on who I think is going to win. For
Yes,
now.
agreed.
Going into the merge, I was like, you know what? I really like Camilla's positioning, and then I was like, well, Kyle looks pretty good too. And then I was like, well, Shaheen looks pretty good. And then I was like, oh, no. Actually, Joe's looking really good. And then this past week, I've sort of been debating to myself, well, I kind of like Eva's gameplay too. I kind of like where Eva's at. But now I'm back on the Shaheen camp. So maybe this time next week, I'll be saying that actually, no,
Yeah.
I think Kyle's going to win again. But, we'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's interesting regardless.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I despite the season being a little lull right now, like I do think there is a lot of intrigue as to who's going to win.
Yeah.
I did have one question for you though, because
Sure.
I do think I want to go back to the Mitch of it all, and I know we've kind of already touched base on this, but do you think? Because I've been thinking a lot about the new era, and like it's 26 days, it's not 39. And I do wonder if the cycles that they go through in terms of days, like, would something have happened? Because Mitch, I think, had too much time to lull in between, like, not getting picked from the reward and by the time tribal council happened. Because we had like I think David went home, David's day 17. Day 18 was the reward challenge. Day 19 was the immunity challenge, and Star went home. Do you think if it was like a combined reward immunity on the same day, do you think this episode ends up differently? Because I kind of think it does. Because I think we've seen the emotionalness of it, and especially for Mitch, who like we saw like episode 2 or 3, him and Kyle bonding really well, kind of working together. They obviously didn't see how the fruition of that came because they didn't go to tribal before the tribe swap. But I do wonder if because again, Mitch has not been picked for a lot of rewards. He only got picked on one. He thought Kyle was his buddy and that he got to. So I do wonder, like, do you think if those had happened on the same day, would Mitch have been more likely to flip? Or also if Camilla had pitched this to Mitch before Star had, because I also think that was the other mistake of this was that I think the wrong person tried to pitch it to Mitch, being Star.
I think that second part is certainly true. In fact, I think that's almost undeniable. Like, I think if Camilla had said it instead of Star, I think definitely Mitch would have at least considered it. But I think judging by the fact that it came from someone who literally wrote his name down like the episode before, like, yeah, of course he's not really going to trust that. I really can't blame Mitch for that.
Oh, no.
regardless, to answer your question, so this was the breakdown of who went on the merge, or not the merge, the reward meal and who didn't. So
Right.
Kyle won and took Eva, Camilla, and Shaheen. Four people who are working with it, or three people who are working with him. These four are in an alliance. Camilla's on the outs for, in the eyes of like Eva and who else, but she's still somewhat marginally in the fold, at least more than Mary and
Sure.
Star and even Mitch. So the people who aren't being taken there are then Joe, Mary, Star, and Mitch. So Camilla's not there. Camilla can't pitch the alliance
That's
to
true.
Mitch. So it would have to be Mary and Star still going to Mitch and being like, "Hey, let's do
Yeah,
this."
that's a good point.
So I don't know if things would necessarily change. Unfortunately, I do think they'd probably be more chaotic, and I do think Mitch would probably be able to be. He'd be a little more emotional about it, and maybe would be
Right,
more
right.
willing, maybe a little more spiteful. But at the end of the day, that's still three, and they would still need to pull in Camilla after the four of them had probably talked about the vote at the meal, anyways. So
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think I just thought I was like maybe like the cycle of days just makes it hard for that to happen because I think maybe Mitch had too much time to think about it. Like, wait a
I
minute,
think you're right. I think you're right.
I don't have the relationship with Star or Mary. They both wrote my name down, which granted it was David's idea, but like he doesn't know that. So like they still did it. So I agree with you for the most part. I just was like thinking about it as I was rewatching it today. I was like, I just feel like if this was like a little bit different, then like maybe things would have changed. Um,
Yeah. I agree with
so
you for the most part. I think that like typically the cycle of days and the less amount of downtime is going to sort of change how people play the game, how fast or how slow they play it. But I think for
agreed.
this move specifically, this season's been so much about this big alliance controlling things at the merge that like here specifically, I don't think it matters, but generally maybe it does. But yeah.
Sure, sure. That makes sense. Yeah.
All right. Do you have any final thoughts on the episode or anything at all,
Any
Bryce?
final thoughts? I think I've been a little down on this season on this podcast. It's not bad. It's still Survivor. I'm still having a
Exactly.
good time with it.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, I have my Survivor draft with my friends. I'm not winning in case you're wondering. I wish I was, but I had man, my poor team. Anyways, I will say that I just think no matter what Survivor editing, no matter what you talk about it, I just want to say that there's just so many little moments that I find to be hilarious and I just want to name some of them. The first one
Go ahead.
being when they're doing the snake challenge and everyone has gotten back and Jeff's like, okay, Eva, you're good. Star, you're good. And then like Camilla like emerges from like the she's like, how? Like, how are you already so close to the end? That I thought was hilarious. Like even like when they get to the reward, Eva's like, "Man, like I'm with my guys, I'm with Kyle and shit, my best friends out here." And Camilla's cool in her own right. And I'm like, "What?" like, I was like, "Eva," like she's like, "Yeah, this is great." Oh, and Camilla's here too. Like, just like that is so funny to me. Like, I
Yeah.
can't get it to me. And there's still there's just some fun moments. Again, slow mo, crazy, like so unnecessary. But
Yeah.
you know, just wanted to end on some high little nudges of humor that I find to be probably more funny than the average person. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. Those moments are very fun.
like
And
I think they're just so funny.
they always find. I will say for all the chicken and waffles moments or whatnot, they're always manages to be fun elements in any Survivor
Sure.
episode for the most part. And I do want to say I am enjoying this season.
Yes.
I don't have to think a season is fantastic television to enjoy it. Like it's still
Sure.
Survivor. It's still the best show ever.
Yep.
I still am
Agreed.
doing a podcast about it.
You still
So,
are.
um, yeah. But with all that in mind, thank you, Bryce, so much for joining.
Oh,
And
thanks for
take
having me.
care, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.